and home budgets. So we will go through a vision of how internet is today and how internet actually should be. So I want to start with a concept that could be familiar to some of you, or many of you, is that the fact that internet is broken. Internet is broken means that the original idea of the internet was, let's build a network where people can find information freely and easily on the internet, on this network. People can access to knowledge. Is one of the most sacrosanct rights of people to access knowledge in a simple, fast way that is cross boundaries. So, different institutes, different universities all collaborated to create this set of protocols that made internet possible. That happened, late 80s, early 90s. And then, with the more investment, the development of technology, and the understanding, especially some of you guys will remember the internet bubble was in the year 2000. That made clear that there was a ton of money to be made on the internet. And so more and more companies, new companies were created, like Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. All these companies started to realize that internet could give them an enormous power. So power to collect people information on a daily basis. Centralization of power. So right now, 70% of the entire internet servers, so all the servers are, like all the internet websites are hosted on servers. All these servers, 70% of these servers are actually hosted on AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. So that is enormous concentration. So you can see that eventually, if these companies might not like certain content of a certain website, they might decide to take it down. Right? It happened in the past that, for example, AWS offboarded few companies that they didn't like, just because they didn't like the content they were providing. And so it can become an enormous hub for censorship. Privacy erosion. We live in a world where every day we message, every day we produce content, we share it with the social media and so on and so forth, and we are giving up one of our most important rights, that is the right to privacy. And many are doing it surely in a, they understand what they're doing, right? They are giving up this right in a conscious way, but many others, the ones that maybe are less techy, they don't understand exactly the mechanics that are behind, sending a message on WhatsApp, or sending a tweet, or writing on Facebook. So there are a lot of intricacies, and there are huge terms of services documents that in the end, all they say, the information is not yours anymore. The information that sits on our server, the servers that are belonging to the big tech companies, is theirs. Algorithm bias is another big problem, right? So you search something or you say something, you're in your house, and suddenly after the next time you go online, you see a product in an advertisement that suggests the product that you were just discussing about, or you were searching about, or chatting about with one of your friends, right? Surely you can argue, well, Google has so much information, can pull all this information together, and can advise me what is the best product for my needs. But yes, surely it can be seen in that way, but what do you know that is the best? How do you know that is the best product for you? Maybe is the product that is paying more for advertisement is not necessarily the best product on the market. So all these algorithms are taking factors inside and are computing, a result that is not dependent only on objective parameters, is dependent on subjective parameters that are, decided by a centralized company. So all our lives, the internet advertisement is an enormous business, and every single moment of our lives we're seeing online ads, and they have an enormous influence on our lives, on our decisions, much more than any of us realize. It's almost a digital colonialism. So this, we are subject to companies that are owning more and more our lives. So our lives are shared with big tech companies just because they offer a service to us. That is a nice commodity, right? So we like to write we like to write messages constantly. We like to make sure that the applications that we use work, and they're cheap, or they don't even cost anything to us. How cool is that, right? So you can use every day an application that doesn't have any cost. But actually, it has a cost. It has a hidden cost. The cost is your life, your privacy, your data, your family's data, your friends' data, and so on and so forth. So it's a hidden cost that we don't understand, or we don't like to talk about it because we are feeling almost ashamed of the fact that we are giving the data to these companies, and yet we don't want to think about it because just the thought that we are giving that data away, our most intimate data, should make us puke, and yet we continue to give the data, our data, to these companies. This can lead to security vulnerabilities. All this information can be hacked, stays on centralized servers, so that happens all the time. Data harvesting capitalism. This data, so just to give you an example, Telegram has around 700 million active users per month. Is a lot. And is basically 1/10 of the world population. And their cost of infrastructure means that their servers, their internet lines, everything that they have, cost around $600 million per year. So it means that pretty much is 90 cents per user per year. And if you think about it, it's not even that much. So imagine how much you write on Telegram, how many photos you post, how many videos you upload, and how much, it's part of your day-to-day lives. And yeah, it only costs 90 cents, but 90 cents multiplied by 700 million active users is a lot of money. So how do you think that companies that have these enormous bills at the end of the year can afford to pay these servers? Of course they have to make money because $600 million are a lot. So they will start taking, they take your data, they sell your data. It was, you for sure remember Cambridge Analytica, how the data that was produced on Facebook was used to, control elections and change political views. You surely remember many other situations in which big tech companies have been fined for selling data, private data, without the knowledge of the legitimate owners of that data. And if you take any company or any idea, any guy that have an idea in this world that want to compete with these big tech companies, it's basically impossible, right? Imagine, would you do another Amazon? Would you build another Google today, or would you build another Gmail, right? It's basically impossible because in order to do that, you will need hundreds of millions of dollars of funding. So the entry barrier to compete and build better product, a more efficient product that don't steal people's data is enormous for everyone. So it's not happening because there is no incentive also for the companies that have that kind of money to give you that kind of money in order to beat them at their own game. So how we can fix this? Peer-to-peer to the rescue. I started this discussion explaining how internet was built for education, was built to allow people to search for knowledge. And internet was peer-to-peer. It was a set of computers. Everyone was hosting his information on his computer, was able to host his own website on his computer. And then over time, that changed. But the technology is still there. Many of you, or some of you, might recall that the first version of Skype was actually peer-to-peer, right? Skype was I would say, a famous communication platform, but was initially peer-to-peer, and then became centralized. Why? Most probably because if it was peer-to-peer, they could not make money out of it. They didn't have your data. So the peer-to-peer aspect was a limiting factor for the economical incentives of big tech company. So peer-to-peer means simply you have a phone, your friend have a phone, and they can connect to each other directly without passing through any central server. It's not magic. We have been told by big tech companies that cloud is nice, is like this little thing shiny on top of our heads, is taking care of us, and so on and so forth. It's not true. They want to make us feeling that the clouds are protecting us. They are not. They are actually a way to take over our data. And so if you talk also to developers today and you tell them, well, you can develop a service that you can distribute your services, your website, they will never think about the fact that they can do it without having any server. They will always resort to using centralized infrastructure, servers on AWS, on Google Cloud, and so on and so forth. Because even developers are so used to think that the only way to serve content is through centralized infrastructures and servers, that the only thing that they know, the only toolkit they use is centralized infrastructure. But we think that we can have peer-to-peer communication system, peer-to-peer infrastructures that don't need any central point of failure. They don't have any central point of failure. There should not be any compromise. You cannot have a peer-to-peer platform, communication platform that have just a little bit of centralization. Either you are centralized or not. There is nothing in between. I know that this could sound like critical to one of the most beloved communication protocols for Bitcoiners. I will not name which one, but you have to understand that either you are centralized, either you have some sort of level of centralizations, or you don't. So if you have some relays and everyone start using the same relays, that is centralization. You can call it in any way you want, that is centralization. So the only way is to ensure that the protocols that you build, the peer-to-peer protocols that you build, don't have a single point of failure. They don't need relays. Then you can add whatever other thing you want in the mix, but the basic protocols should work in the worst case scenario, not in the best case scenarios. So we want to put peers is a word that I really like, in control. So we want to make sure that people have the same opportunities, the same access to data, independently from whom they are. And centralization should be completely removed out of the equation. And that is possible. We want to create a new model of web services, a model of web services that, again, web doesn't need central infrastructure. Browsers can work without central infrastructure. Browsers are a way to display information. The browser doesn't require you to access a specific server or a specific cloud. But, I'm just talking to you and you can think, well, no, it's obvious stuff, or not obvious stuff, but how you can actually prove it, right? Because we have seen in the past how good ideas on paper were not feasible practically. So last year I was here and I was discussing about Kit as a peer-to-peer communication chat app. And we were super early, right? So we launched Kit, I think it was around August. It was mainly desktop. At the beginning of this year, we launched the first version, the alpha version of Kit on mobile. So just a couple of weeks ago, we launched the beta version of Kit mobile and Kit desktop. We learned a lot, right? We learned a lot in the last year. We learned how to build extremely complex patterns and make it extremely easy for people to use in building applications. We built a data structure. Data structure, just to keep it simple, the system of an application, sort of almost a database where the information of your application is stored. And also, data structures allows devices to communicate to each other. So these data structures that we build are impressive. Right now, we are going to see in a moment, we launched a key chat for El Salvador and has around 75, 78 people inside. And in Lugano, during the Plan B event, we had a chat for the Plan B event that has had 400, 500 people inside. Well, think about it. For the first time in history, we were able to put in communication, in real-time communication, 500 people using a data structure, using an application, using a set of open source protocols that didn't have a single point of failure. That in the worst case scenario, even after an apocalypse, this system could still be working, just because you don't have any point of failure. And I like to call it the most complex exercise that had been done to date in a communication system. Because again, think about 500 people that could scale up to thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, without any bit fraction of centralization. So this is the type of research that the Hole Punch team has done in the last months. Is really the most complex achievement that we could hope for. Hopefully we can demonstrate after these days. What I would like to demonstrate is how this can work, not with 500, but with 50,000 people. Also, Kit Mobile has now calls. It's still beta, but works fairly well. Again, you are in a situation where you can make voice calls with your friends, fully encrypted, fully peer-to-peer, without passing through any central server, using open source protocols that are built by the Hole Punch team, and they are publicly available for everyone to verify them. Those Trust Verify also applies to communication. Another important part, right? So just to make you understand the complexity of the exercise that we have to go through. Peer-to-peer means that, again, you don't have any central server. So imagine that I have a phone and one of you guys have a phone. We are in the same chat together. So you are offline, I'm online, and I want to send you a message. I send a message, compose a message, and click send. Then I go offline. You come online, I'm offline, so how you get my message, right? So that is the most difficult part of a peer-to-peer system. If you don't have any centralization, if you don't have any central servers, how do you solve that, right? Because there's no magic, right? It's physics. So if one is online, the other one is offline, message is not yet delivered. Now, how we solve this problem? Because of course, peer-to-peer cannot be successful without a good user experience. So the solution of other open source protocols that have been built and become popular in the last months is using relays, right? You have, someone can launch a relay and you have fixed relays that pretty much everyone is using so that data can be replicated and made available while you go offline. But that is not resilient enough because in authoritarian countries, those relays can be taken down. Sure, you can spin up others and so on and so forth, but it's becoming almost a race between an authoritarian government and people that want to put themselves at risk. So it will not work. So the only way to do that is actually thinking that when you have Kit in your hands, when you have a communication app in your hands, you have actually what is in your hands the most complete social graph that represents yourself and your life. Social graph means that you have friends listed as contacts, you have friends of friends, and so on and so forth. That is a social graph, right? So it is being said that within 6-7 steps, you can know everyone on the face of the earth. So through your social graph, you have a list of your most close acquaintances, but also your friends of friends could be of value, of interest to you. But the way we use this concept of social graph is that you can use your friends to temporarily store the information while you're offline. Store it in an encrypted form that they will never be able to access your data. They will never be able to break that encryption. But you can use your friends, people that anyway you communicate with, to temporarily store that information. And so this is the most resilient communication system ever built, because instead of using centralized relays, you know the people, you use the people you trust already with information, with your information. When we are in society, when we are in a group of people, I say something to a friend anyway, and that friend can relate to other people, right? Can store that information, that words that I told him, and can, relay that information to others, right? I would never, in the real life, I would never tell something to Google and then wait before Google to tell to everyone else. Well, who the hell is Google, right? I would rely on my friends. And so this is blind mirroring, is a way to make sure that the system remains unstoppable. If you live in an authoritarian system, good luck in trying to find all my friends and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends and take them all down, because they might have just a bit, not all information, just a few bits of information that will be sparse across our network, my network friends. And each one has a different network of friends. So how an authoritarian government can take down the system? They can't. Blind pairing, similar concept, but is a way to make people also finding each other when they are, or starting the chat. So there is the concept that when you don't know a person, you need to start initiate the communication, and that is the concept of pairing. And the blind pairing means that you can do that in a secure way using cryptography, also when people are online at different moments in times. So what's next? We think that with this technology we can build peer-to-peer broadcast rooms. This is extremely important. How many of you guys know about Rumble? How many of you know that Rumble has been banned in France? So Rumble is an extremely popular platform to share videos and content, and was forced. Well, French government wanted them to take down some content, and they didn't want to do that, and so the ISPs in France, the internet service providers, completely obscured Rumble. So that can happen tomorrow to any other platform if they don't abide to the requirements of and the censorship requirements of the government. And that is not good. That is not what a free country should aim for. So now we think, how many of you guys know BitTorrent? All right, so many of you guys know BitTorrent, right? So think about how BitTorrent built the most unstoppable file sharing network ever built. So the other important aspect is that Heat is using the same BitTorrent technologies and the protocols, of course improved vastly by the whole bunch team to make real-time communications. So we thought, what if we take a similar approach to BitTorrent, we merge it with Heat, and we allow people from their phone to distribute content that can be shared in real time to billions of people. So with BitTorrent, the people that remember it, you remember that even if you had a good movie that everyone wanted, you would start sharing with few people, and those people would share with other people, and so on and so forth. And the movie was split in chunks. And so these chunks were replicated across an enormous network of people that wanted the same content. So imagine if you can live stream from your phone and in real time, maybe with 1 second delay or 2 second delay, anyway, the entire world can see it without any centralized infrastructure. Now people go on Twitter, they will go on YouTube to do live streams and so on. In the future, but people do that only because there is no other way. But in the future, we will have peer-to-peer broadcast rooms in Heat. Same for podcasts. I think we have seen how some guys were bordered by popular social media platforms because their content was some countries were not happy with their content. Stream from one device to a billion people without an infrastructure is the key line here. You can do live spaces, and one of the most cool things that we want to add in Kit is actually plugins. So you can build your own, you can interact with the Kit chat and build more complex behaviors. Like you can also build, add different types of reactions, different emoji sets. You can add way to onboard and offboard money into Kit. By the way, Kit, as we are going to see in a bit, will have a wallet. So we want to make sure that Kit will become the way for Bitcoin to onboard 1 billion people, because I'm sure that there is no way for any other company that is building a peer-to-peer chat has to spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year just to survive. With Kit, if we have 1 billion users, 2 billion users, 3 billion users, we have zero cost of infrastructure. So we can scale much more, is more private, is more unstoppable. I was in Dubai and I couldn't make a Telegram or WhatsApp video call or audio call to people in Europe. Kit was working. So that's it, right? So it's the fact that it just works. Of course, it's beta, right? So it will take a few months of polishing and so on and so forth, but try it. Works already. And you have already 78 members, peers in the El Salvador Kit chat. So with plugins, we want to create an ecosystem of people that can build and build on top of Kit and leverage the social graph. The social graph is the what I explained before, right? Your friends and friends of friends and friends of friends network. So imagine how powerful any social interaction can become if you give the opportunity to build on an open standard, an open platform, unstoppable platform like Kit. Lightning service provider integration. So we're going to talk with Blockstream Greenlight, and of course Tether tokens will be made available. We want to have one of the best non-custodial wallets inside Kit. So again, with this, it's almost a Trojan horse to bring 1 billion people into Bitcoin. And I want to make you, again, I want to make you think about one of the biggest problems that I see I feel when I think about countries. Think about El Salvador, right? We are all here, and now, if any one of you guys is sending a message to your shared neighbor, your message will go to a centralized data center just to reach 50 centimeters from you, right? The phone that sits on just nearby you, because they are centralized infrastructure. So it means that if you use, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever, they have to send all your data through, thousands of kilometers far from here just to go back few centimeters from you. That you can see on the map, right? It's not scalable. And imagine how much governments are spending in infrastructure, right? So they are spending billions of dollars to make internet lines more powerful, just because every video call that we make has to travel thousands of miles just to reach your neighbor. And it's also a statistic is that 90% of the people are talking mostly with people living in the same city, the same area. So governments are spending billions and billions of dollars just to move data in a useless way across thousands of miles. So we want to introduce Kit for El Salvador. So we think that it was an easy mock-up. So the way it will work with Kit is that all the people in El Salvador that are talking to people in El Salvador will have their data staying in El Salvador. The issue is, if you remember in the previous example, imagine, God forbid that a country gets in a dispute with another country, with a foreign country. And imagine that this foreign country is the country where the data center, one of the data centers that used by the big tech companies, is located into, right? So imagine that El Salvador has a spot with Brazil or Mexico, right? In that case, Brazil or Mexico could have an access to enormous power, because all the data that we produce daily through social media and so on and so forth is the most intimate data of a person, of a population, the entire population. So it means that leveraging on that data can be weaponized against the entire country. So in this case, with Kit, you don't have that problem, because data, first of all, is encrypted, is not stored on any central server, and stays most of the time within the country, because if you are in a chat and no one is outside the country, the data stays in the country. But also if someone goes outside of the country, the data is on his phone, is not in a data center owned by the country. So is a way to build resilient countries. Sure, I love the fact that El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. That is a way to be financially resilient to whatever will happen to other countries in the world. That's great, that is the most brilliant move that could be ever done. Nevertheless, that might not be sufficient. You want also to be able to be fully sovereign, also having control over your communications. So we think that with putting together Bitcoin, and tools like Kit and Hole Punch, you can really achieve full sovereignty. And the biggest innovation has yet to come, because of course we built Kit, and for us it was the way to prove that the system was working. But how we can empower other people to do the same, right? Now that we proved the concept, how we can empower others. And so, next San Valentine's Day, we are going to launch the pair runtime. So the pair runtime is a piece of software for the developers. It's similar to Node.js, but is a small, not operating system, but it's just a runtime, a way to execute files, let's say, for the non-less technical people, that allow everyone to build and access directly to the primitives for peer-to-peer. So you can build with the pair runtime, instead of building centralized services, you can build any decentralized peer-to-peer service. And sorry, someone's calling me. Yeah, no, so I'm shutting down because you should have used it. So the peer-to-run time it will empower thousands and thousands of people and developers to build the craziest of the different of web services. Again, without any cost, apart of course their time. We expect thousands of peer-to-peer web services to emerge, all running an open source interoperable peer-to-peer live data protocol, because the beauty of it is that now anyone that is building his own service have different APIs, different protocols, and so on and so forth. But with Hole Punch, everyone can use the same data structures, everyone can use the same concept. So now you can build, a peer-to-peer Uber that can dialogue with your Kit chat, and then can, use a peer-to-peer file sharing system, all sharing the same data across all these 3 different apps. And we want to present this ecosystem on pairs.com. So we have this domain, and it's super cool. And sometimes people ask me why the pair, because Beat Italian. So the answer is that Beat Italian, you mistake the pronunciation of peers, pairs, and whatever else. And so we think that everything is a pair or a peer, doesn't matter, is 2 cool words. And also we think that peers are a good antagonist to the apples, because apples are centralized. Imagine an army of developers, a horde of developers that are built from their home, from their laptop, can build these peer-to-peer services that don't need VCs. They will not need to beg VCs for money, because they will not need to spend that money in infrastructure. So we think that this horde of web developers can take down an enormous amount of Web 2 companies that are, continuously leveraging private people data. It's endless. The possibilities are endless here. You can build like peer-to-peer marketplaces. Baby monitors is there. Like it's actually quite interesting. Right now, imagine that you are going around your house, or you're going like anywhere else. You go for shopping, and you have baby, and you want to have a baby monitor. So usually how it works that you want an app, of course, on your phone, and you want to monitor your baby. But that app is using a centralized server, right? So is the data, the very data of your most intimate and private images is going through a centralized service. Instead, with technology like Kit and Hole Punch, you can build something that goes directly from the room of your baby to your phone. So this is the level, this is why we're doing this, right? So this is one of the many examples why we are doing this. You can download Kit here, so you will open the store, or you can just search Kit on your app store, and then you can join the Kit for El Salvador room, peer-to-peer room from your phone now. Thank you very much.
All right, how about that? That was awesome. All right, we've got a very special